This car right behind me is the 2023 Geely Coolray Sport SE, the latest iteration of the subcompact offering from Geely Philippines. In today's video, we're going to take a look at this car, review it, and see if it is still worth your money in 2023. So when the Geely Coolray Sport SE was first unveiled in MIA's 2022, I was extremely excited because I finally saw that over here at the front and down below, there is this square piece right here. I thought that this is where the radar will be for advanced driver assistance systems, but unfortunately it still doesn't get it. But anyway, they did update the exterior design right here. So first of all, the color. The hero color before was the orange Coolray, but now it is replaced with this sunburst yellow, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. The grille also gets a mild update. You even have these body colored lines on it and squares or whatever right there as well. LED headlights still remain with DRLs, and your bumper also gets a much sharper design, as well as some of these racing stripes down below. Now, the side profile didn't really age. There's still sharp lines on it, as well as some of these curves by the center of the door, and even your mirrors, which have this faux carbon effect, looks very sporty still, and you still do get your cameras right there for your 360-degree view camera. Starting with the previous facelift model, they've also started out to black out your rims. So these are 18-inch rims right here with red painted calipers as well, more of that sporty touch, and you even get a set of Continental tires right here. And if you move over up top, some sort of floating roof effect with the blacked out roof. It is particularly nice if you match it with this sunburst yellow right here, so you get the black and yellow effect. When the Geely Coolray first came out a couple of years ago, it didn't have a power tailgate. But starting with the Geely Coolray Sport Limited, here you already do get a power tailgate. This edition right here comes alongside a different looking spoiler up top. It's a little bit more sporty than before, and you still do maintain your beautiful looking quad exhaust tips down below. Get a reverse camera right here as well as reverse sensors. And once you do open up this tailgate, you're looking at 330 liters of space with a parcel cover, and you can even extend your space by folding down the rear seat 60/40. Some other things back here include a false floor, as well as a 12-volt outlet and a space saver spare tire. Right, now while some parts of the Geely Coolray is starting to show its age, when it comes to the power plant, it definitely has not aged. So this one right here is still a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder turbocharged gasoline engine, making 177 horsepower and 255 Newton meters of torque. Made it to a 7-speed wet type dual clutch transmission. Well, some of its competitors have started using roughly the same type of engine with the same amounts of power. The smoothness that this one gives right here is still hard to match. But anyway, let's take a look once again in the drive later on. For fuel economy, you can do around 7.6 kilometers per liter in the city. Not the best, but also not bad. And on the highway, you're looking at around 11 to 12 kilometers per liter. Climb inside the Geely Coolray and we check the door. And this is honestly one of the best sounding doors when it comes to these Chinese cars. Now, while the interior isn't exactly the most visually appealing, especially when you compare it to a lot of its other Chinese competitors, I must say that the build quality and the feel here is still one of the best. I mean, this center console right here, you can just grab this grab handle and shake it about. There's very minimal shake, very minimal creaking. Same thing with the dashboard. You can just hit all of these all day, no issues, even on the side. And yes, you also do get some soft touch materials right here. The two-tone design is a little bit too sporty for my taste, but overall it's not bad. The seats are pretty comfortable, well bolstered, and there's even power adjustments for the driver's seat. Unfortunately, only manually adjustable for the passenger seat. The steering wheel is also pretty thick. It has a flat bottom, you get paddle shifters, and you can even tilt and telescope it to find your perfect driving position. You also get a digital instrument cluster, which is very easy to read and is connected to your driving mode. So you want comfort mode, it's yellow. You put it into eco mode, it turns blue, and sport mode turns it into red. Down the center is a 10.25-inch touchscreen. Unfortunately, with no Apple CarPlay nor Android Auto, arguably one of the biggest downfalls of the Geely Coolray. Nonetheless, it's extremely clear, it's extremely responsive. It also comes with a 360-degree view camera, as well as a built-in dash cam that even shows you if you're stepping on the brakes, if your hazards are on, your speed, or even if your turn signals are on. I love this system right here. Up top is a massive sunroof as well, and by the center, this is where some of the changes compared to the older Coolray shows up. So your shifter is kind of different now, and honestly it's a little bit confusing to use because the park button is a button, but you have a separate button for the release to put it into reverse or drive. Yeah, it's just something that, well, you do have to get used to. Single zone climate control, a bunch of cubbies right here, 2 cup holders, and you even get an electronic parking brake. Going back to the materials, this center panel right here, it has this full brush aluminum trim, and yeah, it does feel like plastic and it isn't cold to the touch. Nonetheless, it looks pretty good and really balances out the dark interior you have right here. Other features you have include the automatic park function, which lets you completely auto park the car parallel, parallel, everything. You don't even need to control your throttle or your gear lever. You simply just hold down the button and it will automatically park itself. It is pretty cool. You also get 6 airbags in here, but unfortunately you don't get advanced driver assistance systems, not even autonomous emergency braking nor adaptive cruise control. Now for the door thud at the back, take a listen to this. You don't expect a sound like that from a Chinese car. This sounds closer to a European car door thud. I really love the sound it makes. Anyway, back here, one of the most surprising thing that you'll get aside from having that amazing door sound is this panel right here by the door is also soft touch. Most of the cars in this price point, or even if you double the amount of money you're spending, they will have soft touch by the front, but towards the back it's gonna be hard touch plastic. But for this one, that's really soft. Leg room is pretty generous as long as you're not the tallest person out there, as well as headroom. What I don't like about the back seats though is, this is a chief complaint of a lot of people, you don't get rear air vents right here. Well, you do have some sort of vents coming from the floor, but they still don't replace a proper air vent. As for toys, you do get this pretty thick center armrest with 2 cup holders, you got a map pocket, 1 USB port, a cubby right here, and also quarter windows. You can't seat a third person right here comfortably though. This is still best reserved just for 2 people. Now we drive the Geely Coolray Sport SE, and well, we've already seen how this car drives and it's pretty much identical to how it used to drive pre-facelift, but let's just kind of see how it shapes up right now here in 2023. Okay, first off, the power, absolutely no qualms with the power because 177 horsepower is still a lot of power, and 255 newton meters of torque is definitely more than enough for the size and weight of this car. So as you floor this, no matter if you put it in sport mode, comfort mode, or even just eco mode, there's plenty of torque. There's a little bit of a delay from the dual clutch transmission, especially from a standstill, but it is very minimal, especially for a dual clutch transmission equipped vehicle. As for the steering inside the Geely Coolray, now when you compare it to some of its competitors, it's probably one of the most direct, weighted, as well as the more feedback-oriented steering out there. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a very connected feeling steering system, and it is still very light, which is perfect for the city. But yeah, when you do compare it, it is comparatively more engaging as well, just like the power of this car. But what the Geely Coolray does absolutely exceptionally is noise, vibration, and harshness suppression, because when it comes to noise, there's barely anything that really enters into the cabin right here. Wind noise is well suppressed, and tire noise from these Continental tires is also pretty well suppressed. Harshness, yes, the suspension is a little bit on the firm side, which kind of does help out on your handling, but it really isn't bouncy, it's not too firm, it's not painful. As for vibrations, you might think that a 3-cylinder engine will not do great, especially at idle, but surprisingly there isn't too much vibrations right here. I've said this in my past reviews of the Coolray before. Well, there is some sort of Volvo heritage. No, I know it's not a Volvo, but there's some sort of Volvo tech right here, and Volvo has been making a lot of these odd number cylinders for decades now, and so that kind of trickled down here to the Geelys, and so it gives you a very smooth idling experience. On the highway, the Geely Coolray is particularly refined. It's so quiet, you barely hear anything, and that's where somewhat of the Euro-likeness that a lot of its competitors never got to have shows. It just is a very nice car to drive for long distances. Even the steering is incredibly stable, and while you don't have the stuff like adaptive cruise control, Geely does at least give you a blind spot monitoring system, and you even have some sort of a lane watch camera. Now, I'm not saying that the visibility of the Coolray isn't great. In fact, it is pretty good, with the exception of the A-pillar, which is kind of thick, as well as the rear windshield, but it really does pay to have an extra set of eyes guiding guiding you as you do change lanes. So before we give the Geely Coolray Sport SE a verdict, let's first talk about its pricing. You can get the Geely Coolray in this top trim Sport SE for 1,229,000 pesos, considerably more than how much it originally cost a couple of years ago. And now, if you do compare it to some of its competitors, it may not be the most advanced out there. It may not have advanced driver assistance systems, may not have adaptive cruise control, nor Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but it is still one of the better feeling cars out there, as well as the better driving cars out there. So let me ask you, and comment down below if you think that this car is still worth it in 2023. But if you're gonna ask my opinion on this car, well, I have a confession to make. This Geely Coolray Sport SE right here is not just any Geely Coolray Sport SE. This is my personal Geely Coolray Sport SE, which I purchased in 2023.